السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه العزيز: وأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: ولقد كتبنا في الزبور من بعد الذكر أن الأرض يرثها عبادي الصالحون إن في هذا لبلاغا لقوم عابدين وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين. صدق الله العظيم. My dear respected elders, brothers and sisters, today I was going to talk about a completely different subject, but once again a case of extreme domestic abuse has reared its ugly head within our community one more time, to the extent that the victim of domestic abuse was murdered right here in the Plano community, which, if we combine the cases of murder that took place this year by husbands killing their wives within the Muslim community, it totals up to 3, which, my dear brothers and sisters, is 3 too many. Domestic abuse is something that we are aware is going on, yet we try to sweep it under the rug under the pretense of keeping privacy within the family and not letting anybody know the problems of the household. And the reality is, again, that unless and until we are going to fix it, either within ourselves or through external help, then we will continue to see cases like these. October is a national month of domestic abuse awareness. And we need to be aware that these things are going on within our communities. And the common understanding is that the women are being abused by their husbands, and this is not only the case. Also, there are cases of husbands being abused by their wives. So domestic abuse is not just a one-sided, unilateral affair. It goes both ways. So again, if these things are going on within our household, we must do something about them. We must prevent them. We must stop them. Otherwise, we will continue to see cases like what we have heard about with the Ethiopian sister that was murdered recently. So today's khutbah is about the important issue and what Islam says about domestic abuse and the treating of our spouses in a fair, in an equitable, and in a gentle and kind way. This is what today's khutbah is going to be about. I recited some verses for you. At the end of Surah Al-Anbiya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ إِنَّ فِي هَذَا لَبَلَاغًا لِقَوْمٍ عَابِدِينَ وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Indeed, we have written in the Zabur, after having sent down the Torah, that the righteous, they will inherit the earth. In this is a message for the worshipful, and then the point that I'm coming to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the Prophet ﷺ and says to him, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. O Prophet of Allah, we sent you only as a mercy to all of creation. Now throughout the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, we have heard many instances of his forgiveness towards the people that persecuted him and gave him a hard time. Gave him, his family, the Muslims around him a hard time. The Prophet ﷺ was for the most part forgiving, and he tried his best to overlook the sins that people were committing against him on a personal level. And there were instances when things got to a situation where the Prophet ﷺ became desperate. He raised his hands and he made dua against those people that gave him a hard time. The instant, for example, the Prophet ﷺ, once the Quraysh, they threw the entrails of a camel on him while he was praying. And after this frustration that he saw with the Quraysh, he made a dua against them and he said, "Oh Allah, deal with the Quraysh." So this is one example of the Prophet ﷺ making dua against somebody. Another example, the Prophet ﷺ, he sent a letter to Khusro, who was the emperor of Persia at the time, and Khusro, he took the letter of the Prophet ﷺ and shredded it, ripped it into pieces. The Prophet ﷺ, when he heard this, he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will destroy his nation and put it into pieces also. So this was the second example of the dua of the Prophet ﷺ. The third example, the Prophet ﷺ, he made dua against some of the leaders of Quraysh. Once they became so difficult against him, he made dua against them collectively, mentioning them by name. Oh Allah, deal with Abu Jahl, deal with Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, deal with Shayba ibn Rabi'ah, deal with Al-Walid ibn Utbah, Umayy ibn Khalaf, and Uqbah ibn Mu'ayth. And we know the ends of these people, how they became, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed all of these people in a high state of disgrace. But there's also another incident that took place which we need to be very aware of. the Prophet ﷺ, he made a dua for somebody against somebody also. And this story is mentioned in Bukhari. Ali radiallahu ta'ala who narrates, رَأَيْتُ امْرَأَةَ وَلِيدٍ جَاءَتْ إِلَى النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم. I saw the wife of Walid coming to the Prophet ﷺ, تَشْكُو إِلَيْهِ زَوْجَهَا, complaining about her husband, أَنَّهُ يَضْرِبُهَا, that he was hitting her. فَقَالَ لَهَا اذْهَبِي فَقُولِي لَهُ كَيْتَ وَكَيْتَ. The Prophet ﷺ said to her, go and tell him these things. He gave her some things that she should tell him. And then she went, she told him, فَذَهَبَتْ ثُمَّ رَجَعَتْ, and she returned again. فَقَالَتْ إِنَّهُ عَادَ يَضْرِبُنِي. She said, he continues to hit me. فَقَالَ لَهَا اذْهَبِي فَقُولِ لَهُ إِنَّ النَّبِيَّ صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لك. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said that go and tell him that the Prophet ﷺ is telling you such and such a thing and he needs to stop. And according to one riwayah, the Prophet ﷺ actually ripped a piece of his shirt to show that the message was from the Prophet ﷺ and she wasn't making it up. But then she came back again and she said, إِنَّهُ يَضْرِبُنِي, a third time. After she came back a third time, the Prophet ﷺ raised his hands and he said, Allahumma alayka bil Walid. O Allah, punish Walid. The question is that the Prophet ﷺ took this issue so seriously that he took it upon himself to make dua against the perpetrator of domestic abuse. What do we think about ourselves if we became the victims of such a dua of the Prophet ﷺ? Do you think that there would be any guarantee for our safety? Or will our destruction be guaranteed by this dua of the Prophet ﷺ against us if we are abusive towards our wives? This is a question we need to ask ourselves very seriously. That the Prophet ﷺ took this so seriously that he made a dua against this person who was hitting his wife. So, when this is so serious, why should we take this issue lightly? If we look at the statistics of domestic abuse, they are very alarming indeed. It's mentioned, according to these statistics, that at least one woman in every 3 has been beaten. 1 woman in 3 has been beaten in her lifetime or coerced forcefully into an illicit relationship, forcefully, or otherwise abused in her lifetime. 1 in 3 women. If you can imagine, 1 in 3 women, 33% of women have this complaint. Most often, the abuser is a member of her own family. So again, this idea that we leave our daughters, our sisters, our close female members, or even male members sometimes, with our relatives without any kind of supervision, it is something that we really need to think twice about. Unfortunately, in this day and age of corruption and perversion. So more often, the perpetrator of such crimes are members of their own family. 12 million women of the female population will be abused in their lifetime. And up to 35% of women and 22% of men presenting themselves to the emergency department are doing so because of domestic violence. So 22% of men, and obviously men, so-called braver and stronger than their female counterparts, many of them will probably not even report it, thinking that I'm going to be ridiculed if I go and report this crime of abuse that I'm suffering at the hands of my partner. So The 22% are the ones that have been reported. I'm sure that many more men are being abused as victims of domestic abuse. This abuse is not exclusive to gender, age group, ethnicity, or national origin. It goes across all spectrums of society. So a person cannot say, well, it's not in my society, it's not within the Muslim community. This could not be further from the truth. Many people, they will say that I've never inflicted any type of abuse on my family. But the reality is there are different kinds of abuses too. First of all is the physical abuse. And this is what people think that they have license to do from a verse in the Quran that is misinterpreted, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ نُشُوزَهُنَّ فَعِظُوهُنَّ وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. If you fear that there will be nushuz from the women, nushuz means disobedience or discord, then what are you supposed to do? إِظُوهُنَّ. First of all, you're supposed to advise the women, talk to them. And this is the first stumbling block that men fall down at. They don't want to discuss the issue. They think that silent treatment will resolve the issue. Most men, they give their wives the silent treatment and they expect their wives to understand what's going on and what they did wrong. When the advice is given and when a person talks to his wife or the wife talks to her husband, the issue comes off their chest. And the fact that they got it out of their system, it lightens their load immediately. So, maw'idah, advising each other and talking to each other, this is the first step to prevent any kind of problems happening within the marriage. After this advice is given, and still the advice is not being listened to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. Then separate yourself from their beds. And even some scholars go as far as to say that it's not actually physically separating oneself from the bed, rather it is sleeping in the same bed and not showing any type of affection. So this is the second step. And after this step is not working still, then the third step is وَضْرِبُوهُنْ. Then the step is punishing them, but even we need to understand that in the context in which the Sahaba understood it. We cannot interpret the Quran on our own terms and according to our own understanding. Otherwise, this Sahabi that beat his wife, why would the Prophet ﷺ make dua against him? And why would the Prophet ﷺ criticize those people that beat their wives? According to a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that many of you beat your wives like slaves and then enjoy their bodies at night. This is such a shameful thing that during the day the person beats his wife and then at night he enjoys himself with that same wife. How embarrassing is that? This is the wording of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. According to another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that many of you are punishing their wives, and those who are doing that, they are not the best amongst us. And he said about himself, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِي. The best of you are the best to their families, and I am the best to my family. And there is no recorded incident of the Prophet ﷺ ever raising his hand to any one of his wives. Not even one of his wives. According to riwayat, he was married up to 12 or 13 times. And yet, not one of his wives has complained that the Prophet ﷺ ever punished them physically. So when this is the example of the Prophet ﷺ, we need to follow that example. So, what did the Sahaba understand from this verse? وَضْرِبُوهُنْ. They said, we understood it to be ضَرْبٌ غَيْرُ مُبَرِّحٍ. a punishment that does not leave a mark. And by way of example, they used to illustrate it by showing a toothstick, a miswak. A miswak or siwak, it's called in Arabic. They used to implement the ayat of the Quran by using the toothstick. What does that mean? It means that it's not a physical punishment. It is just informing the wife that this is the last thing that is going to happen before proceedings of divorce are going to start. It is just an indication from the husband that I've tried everything, I've tried to talk to you, I've tried to advise you, I've separated myself from the bed and not shown you affection, and still you are not listening, and now this is the final step, and after this there are no more chances. The next step will be to start discussing divorce, and we need to bring in members of our family, which is mentioned in the continuation of the verse. So many people, they take this verse out of context and say that Islam has allowed me to beat my wife. And this is not the case. This is not shown by the example of the Prophet ﷺ, and it's not shown by the example of the Sahaba. And the Sahaba that did it, we've just heard what the Prophet ﷺ said to them. And there are many different interpretations of that verse too. Some scholars even go as far as to say that the punishment that is mentioned in this verse, it is inflicted by the state and not by the husband. The husband goes and complains about her, and then the state is supposed to punish her. We don't have an Islamic government here, so obviously that does not apply. According to Ata, who's one of the greatest mufassirin of the Quran, he says this verse simply means that the husband is to show anger towards his wife, nothing more than that. No physical abuse. Others state that what was permitted in this verse was only after a series of conditions are met as a way of restricting already rampant abusive behavior. So punishing and beating was already prevalent in the society at the time. What Islam did was that by talking about this was to limit it after all of those steps were taken, and so on. Going on to other forms of abuse. This was just physical abuse. There are also other forms of abuse. Our wives have a right upon us in terms of clothing, food, and shelter, and protection. This is the responsibility of the males to provide for their families. الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. The men are responsible for the women. And when this responsibility is not being fulfilled, this is also a form of abuse according to Islam, because their rights are not being fulfilled. Conjugal rights are also the rights of the female, also the rights of the husband. So if each one of the spouses are depriving each other from those conjugal rights, they are engaging in abuse and opening up the doors of all kinds of illicit activity that is so prevalent in society nowadays in forms of all the shamelessness that we see around us. And you know what I'm talking about. I don't need to go into details. If the husband and wife are taking care of each other in terms of the rights of intimacy, then we would see these things will become less prevalent and less frequent in society. Part of abuse is raising our voices at home and not holding back anger. And we feel, that it's okay that our wives and our children, for them to be an outlet for our anger. You have a hard time at work, the boss gives you a hard time, the manager gives you a hard time, and you know you can't be angry at the boss. You can't be angry at the manager because you'd lose your job. So you come home, and the anger that you had against your manager or your boss, you take it out on your family. And again, this is not appropriate. Take it out on something else. Go to the gym. Beat a boxing bag or something. Take it out on something else. But to take that anger out upon the family, it is completely inappropriate, and it is part of abuse also. This is emotional abuse. being condescending towards our family members, always using words of sarcasm and ridiculing our wife's cooking, for example, or ridiculing our wife's body shape, or ridiculing anything that the wife does. This is also part of abuse. This is emotional abuse. It is well reported from the Prophet ﷺ that he used to eat without complaining. And if he didn't like something, he didn't used to complain about it, he used to just leave it instead of complaining about it. So, this is what we learn from the habits of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is what we need to put into practice. So verbal abuse is also part of abuse. To insult, to be condescending. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that whoever guarantees two things, I will guarantee him paradise. Firstly, that he guarantees that he will look after his tongue and not use his tongue to abuse people and to backbite and slander. And the second thing is to look after his private parts and he not use them incorrectly. If a person guarantees me these two things, أَضْمَنْ لَهُ بِالْجَنَّةِ, I guarantee, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, I will guarantee him paradise. And to control the tongue with those people that have no way to defend themselves against your tongue, this is obviously the best form of patience. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the people that are deserving of paradise, those people that swallow their anger and they are forgiving towards people. And who better to be forgiving towards than our own families and our own children. So the khutbah is actually, there are so many things that we could be talking about, but the summary, my dear brothers and sisters, is that domestic abuse is becoming prevalent in our societies, and it is something that we really need to address as a problem. And if you are a victim of domestic abuse, then seek help. Take help from the organizations that are there to help in domestic abuse, even if the organizations are non-Muslim organizations. You can go to them and talk to them about this issue, and they will give you professional help. And of course, if there are Muslims, then even that's better. There are Muslim counselors within our communities that are started up because this is a need in our communities. But do not stay silent about this issue, because when things come to a head, then we can see what happened with these last 3 victims of domestic abuse that ended in murder. We can see that these things can happen. And unless and until we use preventative measures, these things can happen again and again. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us all the tawfiq to understand and practice what has been said and heard. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects us from all forms of abuse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward our wives that are patient with us, and reward those husbands that are patient with their wives. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward our children that need to be sometimes patient with us also. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. قال الله تبارك وتعالى إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد بعدد من صلى وصام. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد بعدد من قعد وقام. وصل على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى الملائكة المقربين وعلى عباد الله الصالحين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم أذل الشرك والمشركين. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وجعلنا منهم، واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا معهم. اللهم انصرنا ولا تنصر علينا. اللهم امكر لنا ولا تمكر علينا. اللهم زدنا ولا تنقصنا. اللهم آتنا ولا تحرمنا. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين في فلسطين وفي سوريا وفي كشمير وفي صومال وفي العراق وفي أفغانستان وفي باكستان وفي الهند وفي العالم كله، واجعلنا من الذين يجاهدون في سبيلك حقا ولا يخافون فيك لومة لائم. آمين يا رب العالمين. آمين يا رب العالمين. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العلي الجليل يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واعتدلوا واستقيموا يرحمكم الله. Straighten the lines, make sure the line is straight. Heels on the line, stand shoulder to shoulder, make sure there are no gaps. Fill up the spaces, make sure there are no gaps. Allahu Akbar.